Welcome to Financial Issues, where we help you steward faithfully by honoring God with your investments. Now listen in as we give you the practical tools and advice you need to become a biblically responsible investor.
Well, good morning, folks. Welcome to Financial Issues. Great to be here with you today, Thursday, September the 25th. Seth Udinsky, Samuel Case, the FISM team here this morning. Happy to have you. Grateful for each of you. Hey, we've had a tremendous fiscal campaign as of thus far. The Financial Issues family just never ceases to amaze me. You all have done a tremendous job of standing with us and supporting us. I am so pleased to announce, I'll say this right away, I'm going to talk about it a little bit later, but might as well do it right off the bat, that we are now about 60% of the way to our $160,000 goal. We had another massive day yesterday, raised almost $30,000. So to those of you who gave yesterday and throughout this whole campaign as well, thank you so much. We cannot do what we do without you. Every aspect of this ministry, from the show to the partnership, to the analyst team, to the staff, to the Bible study, all of it is because of you all. And you have shown up once again. Thank you so much. We have a real shot to hit this thing, folks. We have just under a week left. So if the Lord is leading you to give, if you're on the fence right now, consider doing that today at financialissues.org/harvest. Again, financialissues.org/harvest. Appreciate each of you so much. Twila Brase is going to join us in about 10 minutes or so to share her appreciation for the ministry as well and give us a little bit of updates on what's going on in the health world. There's a lot to talk about. We heard the Tylenol news the other day, Sam, so I'll ask Twila about that and some other things too. If you got questions for Twila, you can go ahead and put them in the chat right now. She'll be on again in about 10-ish minutes or so. We'll get to your questions and comments. Grateful for each of you. There's a encouraging sign also. It looks like the federal government might let New York City's chips fall where they may if the city decides to elect the America-hating socialist Mohammedan Zoran Mamdani.
And here I thought you were going to say do a government shutdown, which I'm always okay with. I know a lot of people think that's the end of the world, but I'm okay with it.
Yeah, same here, Sam. And I did hear that there is a threat for a shutdown at the end of the fiscal year.
As there always is
a threat for it. I'm sure they'll find a way to pull through in the end.
And my answer is always, call me when it happens.
That's right.
Actually, maybe don't, because I really don't care too much.
Exactly right. Feels like we get a threat to shut the government down every couple of weeks. So we've had one of those again as well. I'm sure that all will be resolved in the end as it is. Folks, just want to remind you, yesterday we talked at length on the show with Mark about our sell alert for Nvidia. Be on the lookout for a petition that's going to be coming out very soon for that. And catch yesterday's show if you've got questions. I know we had a lot of questions come in. We weren't able to get to all of them. We're going to try to address some of them actually right now here, Sam, in just a moment. But I'm sure there's a lot more questions that we won't be able to get to today. Mark's going to be on the show with us tomorrow. So make sure that you get your questions in, get them into the Ask Mark portal. You can also call in as well. And again, if you have questions, join us tomorrow for those for sure. And again, we'll try to answer some of them even right now. But before we do that, let's take a look at what the markets did yesterday. So they opened with some resolve in their spirit. By midday, all the major indices were basically flat. By late afternoon, they were moderately down. There were some tech sell-offs yesterday, kind of the main factor, including Nvidia, actually. You all may have had a hand in this. If you decided to sell Nvidia yesterday, you might have had a hand in driving down the markets. So that's kind of fun. They are no longer BRI after all. By Wednesday's closing bell, the Dow Jones was down about 1/3%. The S&P 500 down 1/4. The NASDAQ, same as the Dow, right around 1/3% negative. And the Russell 2000, almost 1% negative. Pre-markets this morning, similar vein. They're down. They're actually slightly further down than they were yesterday. The NASDAQ poised to open about 0.75% down. S&P about 0.5%. Dow about 0.3% in the negative. That's what the markets are pricing in at anyway. All right, Sam, so let's talk about this. Once again, folks, we issued a sell alert for Nvidia because the company is no longer biblically responsible. No big deal. This is part of being a biblically responsible investor, is we sell companies when they are no longer biblically responsible. Nvidia has violated the screening in terms of support for LGBTQ stuff, for the trans stuff. Mark talked about this ad nauseum yesterday in the the second segment, so you can listen to that there as well. I hope that you all had the chance to sell this stock. Again, we're going to couple this with a petition, but we did get a couple questions that we can address here. Sam, let's get it started here with James. James was in the chat yesterday from Texas, and James, I apologize we didn't get to your question yesterday, but we can address it now. What's James asking there, Sam?
Well, first I want to say, Seth, I'm so proud of the FISM partners that they're not panicking about this, that they're doing what you said. They're understanding that, we're all about biblically responsible investing. Nvidia is no longer biblically responsible, so we're just going to sell it. Really, no questions asked. That being said, there are still a couple concerns that people have. One of them is coming from James. He says, since I'm short with gains with Nvidia, should I wait for right now to sell until it's long?
James, I'm glad you asked that. It's a good question. To keep it simple, though, I just sell it. If I were in your shoes, I would just sell it. Here's the deal. You never, like Mark said yesterday, the Lord could be watching out for us with this one. Many of you got into Nvidia before its run up in 2023. And even if you got in during the run up, probably still made some significant gains. But you might have gotten in recently within a year, James, as I assume that's what your situation is here, but you still experienced some nice run up, which is awesome. But you just never know. Again, I'm no prophet, okay? But I would not be surprised if Nvidia took some steps back simply because the company has run up pretty heavily, and sooner or later, Wall Street will find another tech darling. It's kind of like a high school girlfriend. Most high school relationships don't last. Some of them do. Most of them don't. You jump from dating partner to dating partner, summer flings, all that sort of thing. Wall Street will find another darling. Eventually, it's going to happen. And who knows? Maybe the Lord is watching out for us here. It's gone up quickly these last 2 years. Might be prime for a big correction. I'm not predicting anything here, but it can't be the Wall Street darling forever. It simply can't. So I feel for you, James.
All things must come to an end.
That's exactly right. All things must come to an end. I feel for you with, you don't want to take that tax hit of paying the short-term capital gains tax. And, ideally, it'd be great to hold it for more than a year so that if you're paying it, it's the long term. But then again, ideally, Nvidia wouldn't have canoodled with the gay stuff and you could have still held it. So we don't live in an ideal world, unfortunately. I go back to what I said in the first part.
Nice use of canoodling, by the way. That's such a fun word. Thank you very much.
It is a fun word, yeah. I think you're far better off just selling it. Better to keep your conscience clean and be obedient with immediacy. I'd hate to tell you to hold on to it for the hope of a more favorable tax rate. And then you're holding on to what is now not a biblically responsible position, but you're still holding it. And then say something happens, maybe it does go down, or even if it doesn't go down, your conscience has now been compromised. So I would tell you, even if there's a less favorable tax situation, I'd tell you to still sell it. I hope that helps you there, brother.
I'll also say just sell it now, too, so you don't have to play those mental games with yourself. Like, let's say you do hold it so that you're running long on it, and then it starts to tick back up. And now you think, well, it's not BRI, but it is making me money. And you just don't want to get into that moral web that your mind can play with you, especially a stock like this, which has been subject to big gains. So I could see that greed slipping in there in the back of your mind, and it's better just to be faithful right now and just be done with it.
Yeah, I totally agree. Absolutely. And James, I'm not assuming for 1 second that you would do something like that. I think we're just pointing out there is a temptation there.
Exactly. It's human temptation. I would do the same exact thing if I were you and I held on to it. I'm just speaking for myself. Yeah. I think I'd be tempted just to keep holding on to it.
Yeah, it's exactly right. So just keep it simple. I would just sell it. It's a good reminder, folks, too, don't be afraid of the tax hits. Remember, our founder, Dan Celia, used to say this. The reason that you're getting taxed is because you made a gain. You did it right. The tax comes with the gains. Certainly consider it, pray over it, prepare for them, but don't let a fear of taxes and having to pay taxes impact the way that you invest.
I was talking to our videographer, Luke, about this because he does some side work, and he said, tax season comes around and I always think, oh no, I have to pay so much taxes for all this side stuff I did. And then he says, well, I actually have to reconfigure that, thinking, no, that means I actually did really good this year.
Well. Yeah, I won. Really well. That's exactly right. You worked hard, you made a lot of money. And unfortunately, listen, I don't like it. You all know that. I'm about the last person who would give praise to any sort of tax unless the ones that are absolutely necessary and for good use. But It's just part of the world that we live in, part of the country that we live in, is that, if you make gains, you got to pay taxes. So just try to remember that. James, it's a good question, man. And I hope that we understood the question rightly there. If you have follow-ups, you can put them in the chat there, brother. I appreciate it. It was a good question. We got one more, Sam. We can squeeze this one in. Ann from Alabama. What's she saying?
Ann says, I think Dan used to say not to get married to or be loyal to any given stock. Boy, is that true, Ann.
That is true, Ann. Absolutely. I think it's okay. Listen, it's all right to mourn the loss of a good, solid stock like this one. Made you a lot of money. It was a foundational position in your portfolio. Dan Celia told you to buy it. Maybe it was a long time ago. You held it for years. Maybe you were told by someone you love about this stock. But just remember what Paul says, folks. We forget what is behind. We strain towards what is ahead. We press on. That's a biblical concept that Paul is talking about there in all of life, particularly in our salvation, but we can apply it to our investing also. You sell the stock and you move on. You press on forward. I can assure you, folks, listen, there are going to be, and there are right now, other holdings that are BRI and will do well, including in the tech sector. I'm in one of them right now, and it's doing great. And there's plenty more like that. They might not make you the money Nvidia did, or they might shock you and make more. You just never know. But you know that God's going to bless your faithfulness for it, for sure. And it's a good comment. Appreciate that. We'll be right back, folks, after this break. Hang with us.
There are moments in life that define us. Choices determine the courses we take. Choices that create life, or those that save a life. And some make life worthwhile. There are decisions to stay, or to go, to remain the same, or to grow. Sometimes we pray and make peace. Other times we take a stand for what we believe. In celebration, mourning, triumph, and defeat, we are invested in every decision we seek. Despite differences, we have one thing in common, the desire to do all for the glory of God. Keep your wallet aligned with your heart and your investments in harmony with your faith. Timothy Plan, biblically responsible mutual funds, ETFs, and retirement plans. Before investing, carefully consider a fund's investment objective, risks, charges, and expenses contained in the prospectus available at timothyplan.com. Read carefully before investing.
At Financial Issues, our mission is simple: to equip believers to be faithful stewards of God's resources. That's why we provide the Financial Issues Partnership. Partners receive asset allocation models, buy and sell alerts, a portfolio tracker, conference calls, market commentary, all designed to help you invest with confidence and biblical conviction. Your generosity makes this possible, keeping biblical financial wisdom within reach for everyone who seeks it. Go to financialissues.org/harvest to give.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. On top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn.
Then they sat me down. If you were to die today, do you think you would go to heaven? And I was like, no. Keeping the child was my first stepping stone. And ever since then, God has cleaned me up from the inside out.
Help support women in need. Go to preborn.com/FISM.
Thanks for sticking with us here on Financial Issues, folks. Good to be here with you. Again, let me just say how proud I am of the FISM family. You have delivered once again, folks. You've done such a great job. We've raised up to this point almost $95,000. Which is just amazing. So again, the goal is $160,000 for this campaign. We've raised $95,000. A huge chunk of that has come in the last 3 days, which is just awesome. So if you are on the fence, if you're thinking about giving, or maybe you've already given, but the Lord is tugging at your heart to give even more, I'm not going to stop you. I would certainly tell you, do as the Lord leads, give the amount that he gives. I'm also thrilled to tell you we've raised now 26 new monthly soldiers. Now, 16 of them are brand new monthly soldiers, and then 10 of them have upped their rank. So you were giving already and you upped your rank. So that's just amazing. Again, our goal for that is 84. But boy, 26 is just outstanding. And
what rank would they have now, Seth? Are they generals, cadets, privates, whatever?
We're saying you enter in as at the lowest rank. We'll have to have some of our military members, chime in on this. But you enter in at the lowest rank, and if you give, you automatically get bumped up to the highest possible rank.
Okay, I like that. Fast track.
That's exactly right. We fast track you here at Financial Issues. So thank you all so much for that. Speaking of friends of the ministry, I've got Twila Brase. Twila is the president and co-founder of CCH Freedom, and Twila has graciously kindly agreed to come on with me and just talk about what this means here. We'll get to some health updates in just a moment here, Twila, but let me first just say thank you for joining me, Twila, and thank you for your friendship and for what you have done for our ministry as well. It's such a blessing to be able to partner with you in this way.
Well, I feel similarly. So you all do such a great job, and you have such a great audience of, patriots and believers. And it's always a joy to just come on here once a month and be able to tell, the latest from our perspective, and know that some of your people, maybe all of your people, are going to engage on some of these issues so that we can bring freedom back to the whole healthcare sphere, back to patients, back to doctors, back to the way it's supposed to be.
Twila, I love that. We've been in the business here of trying to promote the ideals of faith, family, and freedom here at Financial Issues. And that freedom leg of that three-legged stool is where you guys really come into play with us here, with what you do at CCH Freedom. It's part of your name, actually, freedom, but particularly when it comes to health freedoms. Let me ask you this, Twila. Obviously, we believe this to be true, but I'll ask you, why should investors and people thinking about their money also care about what goes on in the health world too?
Well, that's a great question, but I have to say that I believe that everybody listening feels the cost of healthcare today, and perhaps even they might be old enough to know that of a time when it was affordable, a time when they weren't more afraid of the healthcare bills than the healthcare condition that they had. And so it's not impossible whatsoever to get back to affordability in healthcare, but we do have to push in that direction. And I don't know if your listeners have ever heard of the 3C solution, which is cash, catastrophic coverage, and charity. With that 3C solution, we could move the entire healthcare system back to affordability. We could move it back to being patient-centered. We could move it back to being privacy-focused, everything that our organization is about. Healthcare is not a lost sphere, and more than that, healthcare is one of the ways that the entire society could be brought into socialism. It is one of those levers that they're using to try to socialize the entire country, and even all the way to Marxism. So I think, if you're an investor and you're thinking about how are you going to protect a country that you love, but also protect your finances, looking at what's happening to healthcare and trying to make a difference to move it back to freedom is so important.
It really is, Twila. Last question I'll ask you about this, and then we'll look at some of what's going on here, Twila. What does the ministry of FISM mean to you? You obviously believe in this ministry. Why do you believe in it?
Well, to have the voice of freedom be bigger, the voice of you're also financial freedom. And I think all of us need to be able to use our finances in order to support the things that we believe in, including, Christian initiatives, including freedom initiatives, including things that protect your children, your grandchildren, your families, right? And if you don't have financial freedom, and if all your money is being taken away from you and you don't even know how to protect it to the best, of your ability, then it makes it very difficult to continue to have a free society and to whatever your goals are, are in life. And so I think, this ministry, in my opinion, from what I see, is that it really helps people not only learn about, issues that impact their finances, but really protect their ability to be active and engaged in the United States for freedom and for faith.
It's awesome, Twila. Appreciate that so much. Thank you for those words. All right, let's get to what's going on here now, Twila. Big news that I saw in the last couple days, which is a little bit comical, but I think is well worth looking at also, is Trump's recent announcement linking Tylenol to autism, particularly when pregnant women would take Tylenol. What do you make of this? What do we need to know about this?
Well, I haven't looked at the studies about Tylenol and autism. Yeah. But I do think there are at least two interesting things to point out. One is there's a whole bunch of videos now on social media with women who are taking Tylenol who are pregnant just because they want to go up against Trump. And they may or may not realize that Tylenol, if you take too much Tylenol, it's actually deadly. I mean, it's really deadly. And for For those of you who are listening to our Health Freedom Minutes, I've done at least 2 on that because a doctor put out a warning saying, you need to look at everything that you take and see, is there acetaminophen in there? And what's the total amount? And don't go over the total amount that you can have in a day without an overdose. And an overdose is deadly. I remember when I was a student nurse and a doctor told me 3 ways that you could for sure make sure that you committed suicide. If you really wanted to commit suicide and couldn't be stopped, taking Tylenol was one of them. It takes about 3 or 4 days to kill you, but it will destroy your liver.
Oh. And
and the thing is, it's on the shelf, right?
Yeah.
It's on the shelf. But ivermectin, which you could take 500, 400, 300 pills and not kill you, as one case study showed, that is not on the shelf. That's considered unsafe. But Tylenol, which can actually kill you, is sitting there on the shelf.
Twila, I was baffled when I saw those videos as well. It made me think, okay, if President Trump comes out and says, hey, oxygen is good for you, breathing is good, I feel like these liberals would literally stop breathing. They would. If Trump says it, they'll do the opposite of it. It is unbelievable. And if he's right, and I've seen much of the same studies that you've seen also, there's some concerning things about Tylenol. If he's right that it causes autism, what these mothers are doing is absolutely horrendous to their children, knowingly that they're doing it just to try to prove a point. It's unbelievable, really is.
Oh, the other question I had when I thought about this is it really Tylenol that they're taking? That this one who took the bottle and put it in, I'm like, is there really anything in there? Or are you just doing this for fake because you actually care about your baby and there's a little part of that a lot of it's true, but I'm just so mad at Trump for saying it.
Yeah, absolutely. Are you doing this will get us kicked off of YouTube, but I'm going to say it anyway. Are you doing the Barack Obama drinking, in quotes, the Flint, Michigan water when he didn't actually drink it? One of those, right? It's unbelievable. Well, Twila, I'm glad that you're on top of this for sure. Anything else that we need to be aware of with this in particular? As these things come out, if you look at the mainstream media, obviously they're going to paint this in a negative light. What do we need to know about this elsewhere?
Well, I do think that Bobby Kennedy is doing some great things at HHS, and even looking at the whole vaccine issue, I think if you really consider the rapid rise in autism, and I remember the Somalis in Minnesota. So I'm located in Minnesota, which has the highest rate of Somalis that have come in, and they testified in one committee that they never had autism. They never had anything like autism and is it in Somalia or Somaliland? Whichever one it is.
Right.
But they never had anything, and they did not want the personal exemption to be taken away because they were afraid that they were going to get that here. And so, I think the government just hasn't even really looked at this. I mean, this is devastating to these families. Why hasn't the government, with all of their money, is it just because they totally believe in vaccines and they wouldn't want anything, to besmirch the whole vaccine agenda? I don't know, but it is a real miss with our government for a long time, and it's great that he's doing something with it now.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of RFK, Twila, we obviously have in the last couple of weeks been mourning the assassination of our brother Charlie Kirk, who's with the Lord now, of course. He was influential in really kind of getting the Maha movement and the MAGA movement together, and just such a huge part of that. Could you speak to Charlie's legacy?
Well, Charlie, what a force of nature. I had actually thought that as we are moving now towards some programs for college and for high schools, that I thought, I would meet Charlie and having just the opportunity to see him in living color, like person to person, right? Yeah. Because I don't think there's anybody like Charlie. I just think God gave him such a bandwidth, such a vision, such a bandwidth, such a winsome personality, and the ability to go into these forums and just be, unabashedly conservative, unabashedly Christian, and just have a certain winsomeness and affability to him that really attracted him to, young people from all sides of the political fence. And, for some reason, for some reason, God said, okay, well, that's good, and has another goal in mind. And I really think, it's interesting to see the revival. I do want these young to have those Bibles and go to Bible believing churches. And who knows, it may have started a revival, and this may have been God's plan. But it's difficult for anybody who has lost Charlie and his children. It's God's way and not ours.
Amen. It's well said, Twila. Hey, real quickly here before we have to sign off, you guys had a big event last week, Escaping the Medical Matrix. Tell us about this. How did it go?
Yeah, it went great. There was about 400 people, a little over 400 people in the room. And Dr. Lee Merritt, people were thrilled with her presentation. And so, I thought it was really great. Some people said it was our best event ever. And then we gave news of things that are happening. So let me just drop 2 pieces of news for your audience here. One of those is that in April, Gary Palmer of Alabama dropped the Retirement Freedom Act. He introduced it, and just 2 days before our gala, Senator Ted Kennedy introduced that bill, and that is to give seniors the right to opt out of Medicare without losing Social Security benefits.
Twila, thank you for bringing that up to speed on us. I apologize. We have to sign off here. Next time we have you on there, maybe we can get even further updates on that one. We appreciate you, Twila, so much. Thanks for joining us today and for standing with us for our freedoms. Folks, that's Twila Brase, CCH Freedom. If you have to leave us, hope you have a great rest of the day. More financial issues for the rest of you right around the corner.
Let us not grow weary in doing good, for at the proper time we will reap the harvest if we do not give up. Over 25 years ago, Dan Celia began teaching the importance of biblically responsible investing, long before many were paying attention. Because of his faithfulness, seeds were planted in the hearts and minds of believers across the nation and even around the world. Through the years, those seeds have grown, and so has the impact for Christ. Today, many Christians understand that their financial decisions do in fact matter, and even some corporations are beginning to make a change. But the work is far from over. Together, we must keep planting seeds of faithfulness, honoring God with all that we have. This mission can't continue without the support of like-minded believers like you. Join us in laboring for the kingdom by going to financialissues.org/harvest. That's financialissues.org/harvest.
Preborn is making motherhood possible for thousands of moms across America.
I found out that I was pregnant, and my family, they were like, no, you're not having this baby. I met Miss Linda. She told me about all the great resources, like they offer free baby clothes, they offer free classes, stuff for her mom. She prayed with me. She told me to ask God to, guide me to my decision. She made it completely like my choice. She offered to get me an ultrasound, and I found out I was 6 weeks pregnant. That's where I very first heard the heartbeat of my son, and I was told, whatever I gotta do, whatever comes my way, I'm just gonna, have this baby. It was really a great thing that I was led to the choice to keep on.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of Preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
Always good to have Twila on with us, folks. Good to be here on Financial Issues. The markets have just opened up their doors. So let's see what nuggets of wisdom they can give us here. The Dow Jones is down about 0.5%. The S&P 500, meanwhile, down right around. Down almost 1% as of this morning.
Markets have a headache. They need to take some Tylenol.
That's right. They need to be careful though, right? Because let's see here. Oil's up a little bit, $64 a barrel, and the U.S. 10-year Treasury yield's up as well, around 4.17. So they can avoid the Tylenol, right, Sam? But the I
am a Tylenol fan. It is pretty ghoulish to be chugging Tylenol to harm your baby despite Trump.
Just to spite Trump,
that's something else.
It is. Someone in the chat, I think it was might have been Brian or James, saying the amount of Trump derangement syndrome is pretty insane. If you see stuff like that, and it really is true. It's they just do it because they don't like a certain guy, and I find it fascinating too, Sam. I've thought about this a lot. A lot of these people, these left-leaning folks, probably didn't mind Trump too much. They either probably were neutral towards him or didn't mind him all that much, or maybe even liked him before 2015.
So we know that because, he went to Hillary Clinton's wedding.
That's right. He was at Hillary Clinton's wedding.
He was friends with all these kinds of people.
Friends with all these people.
The most fascinating video you can watch relating to the whole TDS thing, go watch, although you might need to take some Tylenol to watch this, but go watch The View interviewing Trump around the time when he first announced his presidency, the first time ever. They loved him. They were coming out saying, oh, my good friend Donald, you're a little too much of a moderate for the Republican Party. What are you going to do? Just fawning over the guy. Now look at him. They call him the devil. They call him Satan. Hitler. They call him Hitler. Satan Hitler.
That's right.
Crazy.
That's right. About as bad as you can get. Really is true, man. And it's unfortunate because you realize what these people actually hate is they hate the conservative values. And I know, Sam, you believe this as well, that conservatism is nothing without the Christian worldview fueling it. So what they really hate is the Christian worldview.
Because you have to conserve something. What are you conserving?
That's exactly right. You're conserving everything that's good, true, and beautiful that made this country great in the first place. So anyway, didn't mean to get off on that tangent there. But Brian in the chat here saying Charles Payne over at Fox Business did a good segment on BRI on his money-making show. Brian, I remember that from a couple months ago. He had a guest mentioned Art Alley and Timothy Fund. Seth, you and Mark need to get a spot with Charles to highlight FISM. Well, Brian, I'll tell you what.
I know Dan used to be on Charles sometimes.
Yeah, Dan certainly was. Part of our hope with what Mark is great at this, he's just brilliant at it, is we want to be able to bring FISM to a national audience again. Dan was great at this as well. Of course, we can't do that without the support of all of you. You guys are that undergirding support that helps us be able to bring this to a national audience. That's why this campaign is so important. That's why if we can hit this mark, finish this year in the black, man, we'll be in really good footing, in prime position to be able to do stuff like what you just mentioned there, Brian. We want people, we want a Fox Business audience to be able to hear about this. We want people in what you call mainstream conservatism to be able to know about biblically responsible investing and know, really importantly, where their money's going to. My guess is a lot of these big name guys, they probably don't think too much about biblically responsible investing. And I don't even necessarily hold it against them. I just think they probably don't think about it. They might not be investment minded. They might just think, okay, I'm just going to put my money into a good growth stock mutual fund or something like that and just let it ride and hope that it's not funding things that are evil. But they don't really think about it all that much. There's a need for biblically responsible investing in this kind of larger conservative platform, and we can provide it. We can provide it. We're a small organization, but with the right support, with the right help, with the right host that we have now in Mark, I think we can do it. I really do. And that's part of why this campaign is so important, folks. And I just want to say once again, thank you all so much. 60% of the way there, about $95,000 towards our $160,000 goal. The deadline, again, is September the 30th. So we've got still 5 days to go. So we still have some time for sure. But if you're in a position like, I believe Nelson had mentioned this when we were talking about Nvidia earlier. If you're in a position like Nelson, where you're thinking about sending in a donation based on profit from our latest BRI sell with Nvidia, that'd be a great thing for you to do as well. It can help you out, certainly. It can help you avoid some of those tax burdens that we mentioned a little bit earlier in the show there. And of course, can help us out as well. I don't want us to leapfrog your church. Certainly, if your church comes first, that's great. I wouldn't even want us to leapfrog Preborn either, or an organization like that. There's great ones out there, Turning Point USA, a bunch of different organizations that you could do that for. But I love FISM the most, so I would love it if you consider giving
selfish,
that.
Seth.
That's right. I would love it if you consider giving that gift of appreciated stock to FISM. That'd be a way that you can bless us as well. All that, folks, you can find at financialissues.org/harvest. That's kind of our landing page for the campaign. If you scroll down, you'll see our count there. You can see our 60% bar and the number of monthly soldiers. You scroll down a little bit, you can find ways to give. Make a donation, become a monthly soldier, gift a partnership. By the way, we have right around 10 new gifted partnerships in this month, which is fantastic. People are getting the message that younger folks need to understand BRI as well. But you can also become a legacy donor. So it's that one on the right there. You click that Learn More button, and that gives you kind of some of those alternative ways for you to give. If you want to give appreciated stock, if you want to give through a donor-advised fund, something that's maybe not just your normal sending us a check or giving online or becoming a monthly soldier. You can check that out there, of course.
Seth, actually, Brian is saying here, speaking of BRI, getting the message out, that Charles Payne actually just did another episode again yesterday.
Did he?
So we were thinking he was talking about the episode that aired a couple months ago.
Brian.
No, he did a brand new one yesterday.
Great. So that's great news, man. I mean, what that means is that's now several BRI episodes within the last year. I think that's further proof that the movement is beginning to grow a little bit. We're seeing it gain steam. We got to get this on a national level, though. I think that's great. So, Brian, that'll be a tree that we bark up for sure. You can count on that.
Speaking of barking up trees, I do see some people in the comments are asking about, is there a petition on the way for Nvidia, and are there any updates about that?
So glad that you guys are asking that. We are working on a petition as we speak. We don't have it active yet and ready yet, but you can be assured it will be in very, very soon. I can't say exactly if it'll be by the end of today or by the end of tomorrow. It will be very, very soon, though.
My understanding is there's some special things we're trying to do with this one, so we want to get those right.
This is more than just we're sending a petition to our FISM partners, the FISM family. We want to get the word out, just like you're saying there, Brian. We want Fox News listeners to see this. We want Daily Wire listeners to see this. We want people all throughout the country to be able to get their eyes on this. So Mark is excellent with that sort of thing, so he's going to be working on this a lot as well. We want thousands and thousands of people to sign this petition. We want to make a big impact for Nvidia. Listen, they may not change their ways. They might not. We understand that. We want to be faithful, though. And we want them to know, okay, listen, you can do this stuff, but just know it's going to hurt your bottom line. And maybe you might want to think twice about doing stuff like this in the future. And maybe even with what you just did here, maybe you want to consider turning course. So the wording for this petition is excellent. You all will see it. We'll make sure to let you know via alerts on the show. We'll make sure that you know when this petition is live so that you can sign it. It starts with the FISM family. So sign it yourself. Send it to as many people as you can. Send it to your church. And then we're going to be working on the back end as well to get this thing out to as many eyes as can see this. So we'll make sure to do that for sure. I appreciate you guys asking. Sam, was that on Facebook? People asking on Facebook?
It was on Facebook, yep.
Awesome. Well, hello to our Facebook audience. Thankful for you guys asking that question. Folks, I apologize. I failed to mention earlier, our phones have been open today, and I have not mentioned it. Haven't invited you to call in. But if you want to call in, share a testimony, talk about what's going on, talk about the stuff with Nvidia, anything, you can call in at 610-363-1110. The numbers are 610-363-1110. Phone lines are open. The Ag Report is coming right around the corner here, so we'll hear from Craig. And then we'll be back with more financial issues after this. We have also had a tremendous showing from throughout the country. I think 43 of the 50 states we've gotten donations from. So let's keep it up there. Here comes Craig, and then we'll be back.
This is Craig Howgard with your Financial Issues Ag Update for September 25th. The corn futures posted another low-volume session with little movement in the fundamentals. The only fresh news was the weekly ethanol production report, which came in at 31,000 barrels per day less than the previous week, while we saw ethanol stocks increase by 900,000 barrels. As a result, December corn finished the day 2 cents lower at $4.24 1/4. Soybean traders were focused on Argentina's tax holiday. Now, the tax holiday has resulted resulted in aggressive selling by Argentinian farmers has also led to at least 20 cargoes of soybeans being sold into China for the November-December time period. That's usually a time period that the U.S. dominates. We had November beans finishing the day 3 cents lower at $10.09 per bushel. Brazil is taking advantage of the Argentine tax holiday. It's front-loading its usual program of wheat that it purchases from that neighbor. The lack of tax is also displacing other origins for Brazil's wheat supplies, though it does not create greater demand. The rearranging of the furniture, so to speak, is going to redirect other wheat to other destinations. Russian FOB values have been holding pretty much steady since Monday as they continue to be a premium compared to French and U.S. FOB offers. So there may be some hope for some U.S. business in the future. Yesterday had the Minneapolis December wheat closing unchanged at 5 quarters. Kansas City was 4 3/4 cents lower at 5.06 3/4, in which Chicago dropped by a penny to close at 5.19 1/2. Cotton futures sank back towards the bottom of their recent trading range. The closing bell, December futures were down 47 points, ending the session at 66.17. Livestock futures were all in full retreat. December live cattle were $1.92 lower, $236.82 per hundredweight. November feeder cattle were $2.95 lower at $357.80 per hundred. We had December lean hog futures $2.60 lower at $88.12 per hundredweight. Class C milk futures seem to be a market looking for direction. Yesterday we had the October futures ending the day 6 points lower at 17.04. This has been Craig Haugard with your Financial Issues Egg Update. We'll be right back with more financial issues after this.
Well, as we come to the end of another year, we reflect on God's faithfulness. And if you've been blessed by financial issues, would you prayerfully consider giving before September the 30th? Your gift keeps us on the air, supports our team, and helps us improve the tools and resources we offer. You are the reason that we do what we do. We are so excited for the new opportunities God has in store for us next year. Go to financialissues.org/harvest to get involved today.
Where's Mima? We found out Shepard's diagnosis when I was about 17 weeks pregnant. We learned that he was going to need a series of surgeries after he was born in order to give him what they considered a normal life. And we weren't sure how this worked.
Yeah, very emotional, very, very broken. And as my wife just said, not sure how this worked. And called Samaritan, and they said, you just go have that baby. You leave the rest to us.
And just to hear the confidence on the other end of the phone of this is not something that you need to be concerned about at all. You focus on the health of your family, the health of your baby, and we will walk with you every step of the way.
If a woman sees her baby on ultrasound, it doubles the likelihood that she'll choose life. And on top of that, we share the gospel of Jesus Christ with her. This is why you should support preborn. The donations that you give actually make a difference. Last year, 59,000 babies were saved because of what you have done with your generosity.
To find out how you can support the life-saving mission of preborn, go to preborn.com/FISM.
The opinions and recommendations expressed on this program do not necessarily represent the opinions of the station or any of the program sponsors. Additionally, all products or services offered by the program sponsors may not be known by the program.
Well, I appreciate each of you so very much joining us today on the show. Again, one more time, if you're feeling the Lord's leading to give to our ministry, I don't want to tell you where to give or even how to give. But I do know that if we don't ask, we certainly will not receive anything. That was something that our founder, Dan Celia, learned. I, like Dan, I don't particularly like asking for myself, much more comfortable asking from organizations like Preborn than I am for appearing to be self-serving, which I'm not trying to be. But I know if we don't ask, then we won't receive. This is the one time a year where we really do focus on asking. So let me just say again, you all have done such a great job. Thank you so much. Almost $100,000. I mean, that is awesome. And we got 5 days left. We really can hit this goal. 160,000 is our goal. We want to raise 84 new monthly soldiers. We've got 26 new monthly soldiers. That is awesome. I know that's still a long ways away from the goal, but that's fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. We've gotten several new gifted partnerships. The word is getting out. Claude had a question there in the chat. He was asking about if we have like a PDF or something that we can kind of share, a brochure, a PDF we can share in our church. And I put this in the chat there, Claude, for you to see. But for all of you, on the Partner Hub page, this is for partners. If you scroll down to instructional libraries, go to the fourth button from the right. It says Share FISM. Click on that. It takes you to a downloadable link. It's a PDF you can print out. You can email it to people. You can hand it out to people at your church, hand it out to people on the street if you want to. Give it to your pastor. It'd be a great thing for you to do. And it basically summarizes what FISM is. So if you're struggling to figure out exactly what we are and you're struggling to figure out how to articulate it, just give them the PDF. PDF explains all of it. So that's great there. Let's do this, Sam. Scott Bessent, we teed this up at the top of the show. Bessent is saying there will be no bailouts for New York City if New York City willingly chooses to come under the totalitarian regime of Zoran Mamdani. What can you tell us about this?
Well, basically, he says they're going to make their bed and they're going to lie in it. They're going to have to deal with it. He says we're going to make them suffer the consequences if the Big Apple actually does elect a socialist like Zoran Mamdani, saying that there will be absolutely, under no circumstances, bailouts for New York City. Here he is.
And I guarantee you, and there are not a lot of things in life that are sure, that New York City will be coming to the federal government for a bailout if the Mamdani plans are implemented.
And are you going to give him that bailout?
It will be the same thing that Gerald Ford said. Drop dead.
Drop dead.
Drop dead, man. For context, back in 1975, Gerald Ford, he didn't actually say it, but the headlines ran this quote from him saying drop dead to New York City because initially he had refused to bail out New York as it was on the verge of bankruptcy. He did backtrack on that eventually after Congress presented him with a bill to give them some money. But Bessent said, quote, you just can't enact policies like this and expect to be bailed out. Amen and amen, Scott Bessent.
That's exactly right. Well said, Scott Bessent. Sam, I have one thing to say to that. That's good. That is really good. We don't want cities to just say, oh, we can do whatever we want, elect whoever we want, let crime run rampant, and the all-powerful statist saviors ruling over us will bail us out. You know, that's a common theme throughout history, folks. I'm doing a study right now on the book of Revelation, and I know some of you on the Bible study, your ears are perking up there because you might be thinking, that means we're going to do a Revelation series soon. I'm not promising that. I'm not saying we won't, but Revelation's a tall order. But in this study of Revelation, you know, I'm noticing that so many of the themes of Antichrist are themes of statist governments, where the all-powerful state swoops in to say, I will take care of you. I'll be your caretaker when you grow old. I'll take care of you if you have disabilities. Me. The government will take care of you. This is deadly, folks. We cannot be okay with this. Government bailouts are the worst. They are part of statist governments. Government bailouts of cities that have destroyed themselves by foolishly handing power over to a corrupt cross between a Marxist and a Mohammedan are really, really bad. We do not want this to happen. I would urge you.
It's like the Frankenstein monster really of bad ideologies.
It really is. That's exactly right. We don't want this at all. Pray against the voting of this man into New York City's mayoral office. But if it goes this way, and it likely will, then I think the next best scenario will be that God enacts his purifying judgment on the city for the point of restoring the city. Now, I'm not trying to be one of those, I call down fire and brimstone, just destroy the city. What I'm saying is that God in his judgment, oftentimes what he'll do in judging us is he hands us over to our desires. And then we realize, oh my goodness, this is a judgment. You know, God handing the United States over to a sexual agenda, a sexually perverted agenda, is in and of itself a judgment. It is God judging us. And so if New York City elects Zoran Mamdani as its mayor and they see Marxism lived out in real time, that is God's judgment upon them. And the hope and prayer then is that it will wake people up. That's what we saw throughout the history of Israel, is that when they were under judgment, by God's grace, the judgment is what made them repent. That's the best case for this, I think. I really do think that. I'm not holding out much hope that Mamdani won't be elected, truthfully. I think he probably will.
But you want New York to learn its lesson.
Yeah, exactly.
If it does enact these terrible policies.
That's what you want.
Yeah, we tried that. It really didn't work. You know, I'm reminded of the H.L. Mencken quote where he says, democracy is the theory that the common people know what they want and they deserve to get it good and hard.
That's exactly right. That's right on, man. And, you know, it's good to see, to bring back what Bessent said here, the Trump administration, whether they know it or not, the Trump administration is allowing the natural process of things to happen here, which is good. I really hope that they don't feel the temptation to go in and save the day. I hope that they step back and let this happen and not become the statist, all-powerful savior, but just allow these people the chance to cry out to their actual savior, the one who came to this earth and died on the cross to redeem them from their sins, to cry out to him for help and for restoration, and he will truly give it. So interesting stuff there, Sam.
Yeah, if I'm the Trump administration, they do elect Mamdani, and it just becomes an absolute hole, a pit of despair. I'm just going to point to it all the time as a case study. Whenever the Democrats say anything, do anything awful, I'm just going to say, look at New York. I might just put a live stream of it on my main government page, just saying, look at it. Look how terrible it is.
It's exactly right. That's exactly right. Good stuff there. Elsewhere, Sam, we touched on this a little bit, but I think it is worth mentioning. Fed Chair Jerome Powell, this was Tuesday. He spoke this week, and the markets really have kind of been in a downtrend ever since he said these words. Sam, tell us exactly what he said that made the markets so upset.
Well, I mean, I think the part that made the markets upset is when he said everything's overvalued or generally overvalued.
He said like fairly overvalued.
Yes,
right?
Yeah, fairly. Yeah. To be fair to him, he said fairly. Other than that, he really didn't say too much else. He kind of reiterated the reason why we had rate cuts earlier this month, saying that we're in a challenging position addressing labor market concerns and also balancing hotter than expected inflation. But some Fed governors are coming out already saying we're already behind the 8 ball when it comes to employment. We need to be lowering those rates much more aggressively. That was Michelle Bowman saying that. She said earlier this week, quote, "I'm concerned that the labor market could enter a precarious phase, and there's a risk that a shock could tip it into a sudden and significant deterioration."
Good deal, Sam. Thanks for bringing that up. You know, it's a good lesson for us to be reminded of, folks. And I'm living this lesson right now as I check my portfolio. We need to be vigilant. Powell will say things. Political things will happen, elections will happen, tariffs will happen, the markets will go bananas, the markets will be really excited, the markets will find a new chip darling or another type of darling, the markets will go all yeehaw for Nvidia or some other company. Stick with your strategy. None of it matters. Stick with your strategy. Long-term, diversified, you're looking for opportunities, and most importantly, biblically responsible. Speaking of looking for opportunities, Brian is asking a real good question there. Let me see if I can find Brian's question here about, kind of what should we look towards to replace the stock that we just sold now. Yeah, Brian's saying got a good amount of cash now. Need a good BRI chip maker to add now that I sold TE91. Brian, I can tell you in the tech sector right now, there are several options on the buy list. I am in one of them that is a company that you could say is maybe tertiarily connected to Nvidia. The FISM symbol for that is TE2. So you can consider that one. But there are some other options there for sure. And you can be sure as well that the analyst team right now is looking to find some good potential replacements for that. And you'll be hearing some updates on that very, very soon for sure. So good stuff, folks. A couple quick hitters here before we sign off on the show. Again, I appreciate you all joining us today so much. Trump has now signed an executive order designating Antifa as a domestic terrorist organization. I am so in favor of this. I think that's an excellent designation. I think it's exactly right. Antifa, short for anti-fascist, really what they are is they're a domestic terrorist organization that targets conservatives and Christians.
Because nothing says I'm anti-fascist like beating up your political opponents so they can't speak out against you.
Exactly. Boy, how anti-fascist is that? Amen. Silencing our opponents, beating them up, killing them. Yeah, that's all pro-freedom there, definitely. Really good to see that. I think think that is awesome. Also, pretty cool to see here, the Charlie Kirk effect is in full force as voters registering Republican in large numbers. I just think that's really, that's something that we can really see Charlie's impact, especially on the young people. It's going to be absolutely huge there for sure. Also, folks, I would say keep our country in prayer in general. We saw, I believe it was either yesterday or 2 days ago, there was another attack from what was probably left-leaning terrorists at an ICE facility in Dallas. We have got to pray that God would spare us from this rampant evil that is cycling through this country, particularly in the left-leaning political caucus. Pray that they would come to repentance and faith in Christ, and pray for the resolve to stand firm for the truth no matter what. That's what we're trying to do here, and we can't do it without you folks. Boy, thank you all so much. It was great to be here today. God willing, we'll do it again tomorrow with Mark. Bible study in the morning as well. Hope you all join me for that. Remember, it's all His, all the Lord's. Let's be found good and faithful stewards with what God has given to us. See you next time.
If we ever forget that we're one nation under God, then we will be a nation gone under.
Thank you for joining us. This has been an FISM production.